Angie Nixon, who will be my opponent in November, and her comrades want to destroy this country and everything that it is built on. I am not exaggerating. I believe that America is the greatest country on earth. And in the face of anti-American rhetoric, folks that want to destabilize this country, I think we all need to stand on that line.
It's not about people's labels for me. Yeah. I'm a single mom. I was a single mom for, 12 years. I'm a mother now. I'm an organizer. I'm a community organizer. But more importantly, it's about the needs of the people. And what people need is they need housing, right? They need universal health care. They want universal child care to help lower their costs so that they can just be able to live without struggling or anything like that.
What's up, family? So let me tell you what we're going to break down today. We got a clip of Scott Jennings absolutely shutting down a guest who tried to play the race card to defend socialism in Florida. And I'm going to walk through every single point because this is the kind of conversation that needs to be had in plain English. Scott Jennings goes at this woman who's trying to argue that running a socialist candidate in Florida isn't actually a problem for Democrats. And the moment you hear her argument, you realize she's not arguing in good faith. She's deflecting, she's dodging, and she's trying to make it about race instead of about policy. And that's the playbook we've seen 1,000 times. You bring up socialism, they call you a racist. You bring up failed policy, they call you a bigot. You bring up results, they bring up identity. And Scott Jennings wasn't having it. He points out that Angie Nixon just won a Democratic Party in Florida, running as a self-described socialist. And the response from the other side isn't to defend socialism, it's to attack the messenger. And that tells you everything you need to know. If your ideas were good, you'll defend them on the merits. But when you can't defend the ideas, you attack the person. And that's exactly what happened here. She tried to pivot and say, well, Barack Obama won Florida twice, right? As if that disapproves the point about socialism. And this is where you got to pay attention because this is the kind of trick they pull all the time. Barack Obama did not run as a socialist. Barack Obama ran as a centrist. He ran as a unity candidate, even though as a lot of us Americans would say that Barack Obama has ignited a lot of division in this country. But he talked about hope and change and bringing people together. He did not run on nationalizing industries, defunding the police, opening the borders, or eliminating ICE. As we know, Barack Obama actually cracked down and was very hard on securing the border, second to Trump nowadays. And that's not Obama's platform, right? That's the platform of the current Democratic Party. Obama's platform was never the socialist style, is my point. That's not his platform. Now, the platform of the current party is socialism, like Democratic Socialists of America. That's been pulled so far left, they can't even see the center anymore. So when somebody says Obama won Florida, so socialism can win Florida, they're either being dishonest or they don't understand basic politics. Obama won Florida because he appealed to independents and moderate Republicans. Angie Nixon is not going to win Florida because she's running on a platform that repels independents and moderate Republicans. It's not a hard concept. And the woman kept trying to make it about race. She kept trying to imply that the reason people are criticizing Nixon's socialism is because Nixon is black. And that's the part that really gets me, family, because what she's saying is that black voters in Florida are supposed to support socialism just because the candidate is black. That's not empowerment. That's assumption, right? So I want to get into the clip in regards of Scott Jennings.
This is really, really telling. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman did outraise and outspent Angie Nixon and also Senator Ashley Moody, and he lost. What does that tell you?
He was a terrible candidate. It's difficult for me to put that in words. In some of our conference calls at Axios, I would just start to rant about it. Like I was almost offended by his just inability to campaign properly.
How did he do it? Yeah.
Well, it's more like how did he not do it? I don't really know where that money was spent, because you didn't really see him on television. You didn't really see him in the community. You didn't see him in mailers. You didn't see him in text messages. There was no presence.
On the one hand, you don't want to diminish what her accomplishment is or her track record and her resume. On the other hand, it sounds like this race might not be predictive of a larger, much more involved one, but how are Republicans going to play this?
I mean, it's Florida. Ashley Moody is a popular person. She'll be fine. Democratic Socialists are not going to be terribly popular in Florida. I heard
Parts of Florida.
I heard Ms. Nixon say, well, it's not about labels, which I find curious since she joined the Socialist Party just this summer. She affixed the label to herself only now to say, well, it's not really about labels. I actually think Ashley Moody's remarks were dead on. She's just reading out of the Democratic Socialist platform. When you align yourself with people who fundamentally would like to rip, what we know is how America works out root and branch, you're kind of anti-American. And all these socialists, whether they're in Florida or any other state, are going to face these same kinds of attacks. So I think Ashley Moody has the advantage here. Vindman, look, I agree with you, terrible candidate. He's been kind of a grift all the way through. And the fact that these lib donors gave him $16 million.
They might have given him more, actually.
To watch him, piss it away on this grift. I don't know where it went either. I assume the consultants all have fine beach houses all up and down the coast now.
All the consultants.
But it's a grift. He's been a grift for years, and he paid for it tonight.
But here's the thing, Scott, and what I'm hearing you say is that no grifting and also norm busting is seen as anti-American. It's been successful for other candidates who look at these issues and say
norm busting is what you call the socialists.
Oh no, that's not what I call norm busting. But I'm talking
about the downfall of Western civilization.
Well, I'm going to finish.
Really?
Hold on, let me
They
finish
weren't
my
in Congress
point.
trying to burn down the place?
I'll finish my point, and I want you to respond to what Ashley had to say. But I also want to hear from Lulu in that the idea that she did sign on to Democratic Socialists this summer. I interviewed her yesterday. I asked her about issues like abolishing prisons and beyond. She talked about wanting to not have the for-profit prison industrial complex as one of the issues. But she did suggest there was a bigger tent available for Democrats and that there is nuance and non-monoliths within both parties. Now, whether that actually works for her ultimately, Lulu, I'd love to hear your response.
I'm also a Florida person, Florida woman, to Mark's Florida man. This is what I think. I think Vindman was a terrible candidate. I think when you're running statewide in Florida, it's really hard to be a carpetbagger because name recognition really does matter. He was kind of coasting off of the idea that he had name recognition because of what had happened in Trump, in the first term, and that's just simply not the case. I also think, that it is going to be hard for a Democratic Socialist to win in Florida simply because you have the Cuban community, the Colombian community, the Venezuelan community,
Nicaraguan community.
The Nicaraguan community, thank you, who don't like those words, who see this
Why
movement.
wouldn't they like it? Are you suggesting that socialism might not have a great reputation among some people?
I'm suggesting that it's certainly like my family, they fled from Cuba, communism, which is, I'm not saying these two things are the same. What I'm saying is that there's a deep-seated antipathy towards that particular strain, and they're worried about it. That said, the Latino vote is very powerful. Half of it is Puerto Rican, and they don't carry that same baggage. So,
I don't know that anybody black can win in the state of Texas. State of Florida, statewide. We'll see with
Obama did twice.
Yeah.
And there goes my point, right? That's telling black people what they should think based on skin color instead of letting them think for themselves. Because she's like, oh, I don't know any black candidate who has won the state of Florida, right? And when you look at that, that's exactly the kind of plantation mentality that keeps people trapped. You're telling me that because I'm black, I should support a socialist candidate who wants policies that have failed everywhere they've been tried. Cuba, Venezuela, the Soviet Union. You want me to sign up for that because the candidate looks like me? That's what a black individual may say, right? That's not how this works because black people are not a monolith. We have different opinions, different values, different priorities. And I really hate to get into the divisive race rhetoric because all of us as people, the beauty of different perspectives, different opinions, different values, different priorities, we can come together to also share with each other what we may not know. Because the reality is the smartest person in the room also understands that when you go out into the world, you are the dumbest person, not literally, but metaphorically or figuratively, I should say. You're dumb because you're basically keeping yourself humble to be hungry to understand different perspectives because you can then educate yourself and realize that you don't know everything, right? So learning from different perspectives, different opinions, different values, you can teach each other and then have a conversation, even if you agree to disagree or agree, but you still have basically informed and educate each other on two different perspectives that you possibly may have never been introduced to before or came about or were aware about mentality wise. And the assumption that we all have to fall in line behind a socialist candidate just because she's black or just because in the name of uh, it being a certain race is actually more racist than anything, right? The so-called racists are saying. And let's talk about what socialism actually looks like in Florida, right? Because not only are you basically trying to make this a race divisive rhetoric and trying to basically emotionally manipulate individuals to vote a certain way to shame or guilt them that, oh, there's never been a black person that I ever seen win the state of Florida. Race has nothing to do about qualifications or what we the people believe based on merit and qualifications that will push for the better livelihoods and keep things going in the right direction, not only as a state, but also a state part of the beautiful United States of America that then impacts the policies of local counties, children within those counties within that state and things like that, affecting the next generation, property taxes, all of those things. And what socialism actually looks like in Florida, Florida is a state where a lot of people came from somewhere else to have more freedom, as you heard. And you got Cubans who fled Castro's communist nightmare. You got Venezuelans who fled Maduro's socialist disaster. You got Nicaraguans, Colombians, people from all over Latin America who watched socialism destroy their home countries. Now, you want to tell those same people that socialism is the answer in Florida? Or because you should have a black person and it's about race instead of policy? And actually bettering their lives and keeping things going in the right direction based on competency and merit and qualification and plans that my point is, I don't care about what race, right? I look at the people at the content of their character, not the color of their skin. We're all beautiful. We are unique. We have our gifts and talents. So Floridians who basically want to make sure the quality of their life is up, right? That their kids are getting the best education. They worry more about policy and making sure their lives improve and they're trying to figure it out. I have a hard time believing that race happens to be a factor in voting more than actually seeing what can you execute plan wise and clearly articulate and what the people can see if you're worth your salt to vote for. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with skin color. And that's why when you look at that, and you mean to tell those same people who have escaped socialism, right? The Colombians, the Nicaraguans, all the individuals from Latin America who had watched their home get destroyed and socialism destroy it, and you expect them to think socialism is the answer in Florida? Are you serious? That's why Scott Jennings' point is so devastating because he understands that Florida is the one state where the socialist argument is the hardest to make because the voters there have living memory of what socialism actually does. And a lot of individuals pushing these socialism agendas had never built anything and understanding even basic economics and never ran a business before to understand that it won't work. So they're just going based off feelings and thinking that this is a way of reform and destroying the whole system of capitalism, which is only capitalism is only basically saying when individuals become successful, you can build something out of nothing like a business, and then you can create opportunities like jobs to then boost the economy within your state while giving an opportunity to another person that you can then employ as your employee, a part of your business, and then they have an opportunity as well. And as the business grows, with tax cuts and things like that, because the more money you make in your business, the more taxes they take. But if you get them tax cuts, they can actually expand the business, then create more opportunity and more employees within that business, which then create opportunities within the communities and also enrich those communities to want to raise families there with so much opportunity being out there that it also creates a tax base so big that you don't have to tax them to death because they actually enjoy living there. And you have so much money coming in because people like to eat, play, sleep, and work in the same place and raise their families beautifully if you don't tax them away, right? And unfortunately, for those who can't get away, they have to deal with being taxed to death, and it hurts the middle class and low income working class individuals, and it pushes out businesses. So they don't understand how this works, right? And also never endured what socialism actually does. They just want another alternative, but don't even know how they're going to execute this socialism idea. It just sounds good until it takes place. So individuals who have been in Florida, they didn't read this in a book about socialism. They didn't watch a documentary. They lived it. Their families suffered under it. And you would think the common sense of ding, 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 oh, they came to Florida and they have suffered through this. You know, all these individuals came, they had their home destroyed from through all across Latin America, and they have succeeded here in America because of capitalism. So they came to America to get away from it. And now you want to run a socialist candidate and expect them to vote for her? It's not just political stupid, it's historically ignorant. And here's the thing about the race baiting angle. Whenever you point out these facts, they call you a racist and they say you're attacking a black woman, but nobody's attacking her because she's black. We're criticizing her because of the policies and what comes with her being a democratic socialism or a socialist in regards of policies that she think that would actually improve Floridians lives, right? And that's what it's really about. Like I said, you vote based on a politician that lobbies your best interests and executing a plan to improve the lives for your families and those around you and your communities and continue to thrive and be productive citizens and things like that, right? And that's the difference. And the fact that they can't tell the difference tells you everything about how they view individuals, right? In their minds, any criticism of a black candidate must be because of race. I'm just asking a question. They can't conceive of a world where black people can be wrong on policy since they want to run the black narrative when it's really is just about running to see who's best fit to lead based on merit and policy. But they can't conceive of a world where black candidates can have bad ideas. We all can have bad ideas. We're not perfect. So you default to the race card every single time. And that's insulting. It comes off very insulting to black voters who have brains and can make their own decisions. It's insulting to Floridians, and it's insulting to black candidates who should be judged on their ideas, not protected from criticism because of their skin color. And it's insulting to the intelligence of every individual, no matter what race, having this conversation and just wanting their lives to improve as much as everyone else around them. So let's look at what actually happened in the primary. Angie Nixon won a primary in a heavily Democratic district. That means she won over the most liberal voters in that area, but Florida is not a heavily Democratic state overall. It's a purple state. That's been trending red. So winning over the far left base in a primary is actually a liability in a general election. You're not winning over independents. You're not winning over moderate Democrats. And just to put out there also, because they're making it as though, oh, well, race can excuse a politician for not lobbying the best interests in which voters decide based on their policy. Byron Donalds is thriving, and I believe he's going to win. He will win. He's black, but based on his policies, he's being voted for. Nobody's focused on his skin color or none of the candidates' skin color. So when you look at it, though, since you're winning over the far left base in the primary because of the far left base, and it becomes a liability in the general election, you're not winning over independents, you're not winning over moderate Democrats, you're not winning over the people you need to actually win an election. And this is the problem Democrats keep having over and over. And they keep nominating candidates who are too far left for the general electorate. And they're very deceiving, right? Because now they'll sit there and run as an independent, and really behind the scenes, they're really a socialist, but they just don't want to have the D next to the name, such as in Democrat, so it don't come off as socialism. AOC is trying to disavow all her socialist views in which she enriched this movement in the first place. She championed when she did get elected in 2018. in 2019, 2020, and 2021, and 2022. But now since she have aspirations to run it for presidential, be a presidential candidate in 2028, now she want to act like she's not with the socialism movement, but she really is, but she can't say it out loud because she know that it would be she's in political survival mode right now. She's saying whatever to continue to help her keep a job instead of actually serving the people. So what I'm saying is they keep letting the most extreme voices in the party dictate who gets the nomination, and then they act surprised when those candidates lose. But they don't learn the lesson. They don't look in the mirror and say maybe our policies are too extreme. Instead, they blame racism. They blame voter suppression. They blame the media, even though the media works inside with the mainstream liberal media. They blame everybody except themselves. I mean, you see the mainstream liberal media at work here. I don't know how Scott Jennings don't get exhausted because instead of her seeing that she's running on a socialist agenda, she pulls the race card. Oh, I don't know how. I never seen a black person actually win the state of Florida.
You did?
Yeah, the national race I'm talking about, just to
Byron Donalds is
statewide.
favored
Well,
to
that's
win
what
the
I was going to say.
governor-
We'll see what actually happens with Byron. I
I'm
mean,
going
I
to
think this
interview
is
him
gonna be
in just a moment as well and get his take.
Because I just think there's a lot of deep-seated racism. I've campaigned in Florida several times, several presidential campaigns deep in these counties. You know, if you look at where Byron lost, they're Republican, white, deep red, rural
Andrew
counties.
Gillum lost by literally half a percentage point.
Different time. So I'm just saying he still lost. My point is I'm just not sure anybody can pull it off, but I hope Byron can. It'll be interesting to see if he can. I'm just not sure anyone can.
Sounds like, oh, well, Byron won his primary as a Republican. So he can, but you just want to point out the bad part because again, you want to basically champion the Democratic candidate being the mainstream liberal media, being part of CNN network as you are, Angie Nixon. So now you want to just generalize all individuals as a monolith. Oh, we'll see if Byron Donalds can. I'm not disputing that, but I don't see that they can because the reality is you want Angie Nixon to win, but you got to generalize it so you don't come off as of you really want the socialists to win. And when you look at that, they blame everybody except themselves, and then they want to run a socialist in Florida and expect different results. And that's the definition of insanity. And when you talk about Byron Donalds, right, because this is where the conversation gets even more interesting, Scott Jennings mentions that Byron Donalds is expected to make a major push for governor in Florida. And this is the matchup that should terrify Democrats, right? You got a black Republican, since you want to run a race car, who's popular, who's conservative, who can talk to black voters in a way that most Republicans can't, as they would say. And Democrats are going to try to run a socialist against them and hope race baiting works. Good luck with that, because Byron Donalds can stand on the stage and say, I'm not the one telling black people what to think. I'm not the one assuming black people need socialism to survive. I believe in black excellence, black entrepreneurship, black families, black communities thriving without government handouts. And the socialist candidate is going to stand there and say, you need the government to take care of you. Which message do you think resonates more with Floridians, right? Hardworking individuals who came from Latin America when their homes were destroyed, black voters who want to be independent. Which message resonates more with Cuban Americans who watch socialism destroy their homeland? They believe in hard work. Which message resonates more with everyday Floridians who just want to keep more of their own money? It's not even close. And that's why the Democrats are so desperate to make it about race. But they still shoot themselves in the foot because Byron Donalds is black. But he's not the black that they want because it's not socialism. So it's just like, oh, they just play it off and downplay. Oh, we'll just see if he win. We'll just see. I don't know if any black person, don't generalize it. He is capable. Any candidate is capable. It's not about race. If they lobby the best interest to improve the lives of Floridians, right? Policy, plan execution, being able to articulate your plan clearly, showing the people that you're worth your salt to improve their lives and actually letting them know what they're getting. Not sitting here hiding behind a socialism label and trying to say it's not about labels, but faking the funk. Because if they have to defend socialism on the merits, they lose. They know they lose. The only chance they have is to distract, deflect, and divide. And that's what the woman in this clip was doing. She wasn't arguing. She was deflecting. She wasn't making a case for socialism. She was making a case against the person, against the person asking the question. And Scott Jennings wasn't having it. And he kept bringing it back to the policy. He kept bringing it back to the reality of the situation. And she kept trying to run away from it. And that's the difference between someone who's confident in their ideas and someone who's not. And when you believe in what you're saying, you can defend it. When you don't, you attack the person asking the question. So let me break this down even further because I want you to understand what this means for our country. This isn't just about one election in Florida. This is about a pattern. The Democratic Party has moved so far left, they can't even acknowledge basic reality anymore. They can't even admit that socialism is unpopular. They can't admit that open borders are unpopular. They can't admit that defunding the police is unpopular. So instead of changing their positions, they change the subject. They call you racist. They call you a fascist. They call you a threat to democracy. Anything to avoid having to defend their actual policies. And the media helps them do it. The media runs interference. As you see, they frame every election as good versus evil instead of left versus right, all of this stuff. They make it about personality instead of policy. They make it about identity instead of ideas. And that's how you end up with a candidate like Angie Nixon winning a primary. Nobody in the media asks an obvious question. If socialism is so great, why does it keep failing everywhere it's tried? Why do people keep fleeing socialist countries to come to America? Why do places like Cuba, Venezuela, and North Korea have massive poverty, oppression, and suffering while capitalist countries have prosperity, freedom, and opportunity? These aren't hard questions, but the media won't ask them because they don't want the answers. And the woman in the clip represents the entire mindset, that entire mindset. She's not interested in a real conversation. She's interested in winning the argument by any means necessary. And when you can't win on facts, you win on emotion. When you can't win on policy, you win on identity. When you can't win on results, you win on race. And that's exactly what was happening in this clip. That's exactly what was happening. But here's the good news, family. More and more people are waking up to this, and more people are seeing through the manipulation. And more people are saying, I'm not going to be told what to think based on my skin color. I'm not going to be guilty into supporting bad policies because someone played the race card. I'm going to look at the results. I'm going to look at what works. I'm going to look at what actually is making my life better. And that's what's important. It has nothing to do with race. And that's why you see Black, Hispanic voters, right, moving toward the Republican Party in record numbers. They're tired of this race stuff, this divisive rhetoric. Life is already complex. Come on, man, keep it simple. We just want to improve our lives, no matter what race you are. And that's why you're seeing working class voters abandon the Democratic Party because people are tired of being lied to. People are tired of being manipulated. People are tired of being told that the government knows better than they do. And when you run a socialist candidate in a state full of people who fled socialism, you're going to lose. And when you try to make it about race instead of policy, you're going to lose even harder because people see through it. They always do. It just takes a little longer for some than others. Now, let me give you the takeaway from all this. The takeaway is that you have to think for yourself. That's all. I'm not telling you what to think or how to think. You cannot let the media, the politicians, or the activists tell you what to believe. Not even me. We just having a productive conversation. You have to look at the evidence. You have to look at the results. You have to ask yourself, is this policy actually making people's lives better? And if the answer is no, it doesn't matter what color the candidate is. I've been advocating this whole video. It doesn't matter what party they belong to either. It doesn't matter what label they put on it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And socialism doesn't work, and it has never worked, and it will never work. Not in Florida, not in California, not anywhere. And the people who keep trying to sell it to you are either ignorant or dishonest. And in this case, the woman in this clip, she was being dishonest. She knew she couldn't defend socialism, so she tried to change the subject. And Scott Jennings called her out on it, and that's why this clips matter. It's a perfect example of how these conversations actually go when somebody refuses to let the other side get away with the deflection. So the next time you see somebody trying to play the race card to avoid talking about policy, call it out. The next time you see a politician trying to make it about identity instead of results, call it out, because that's how we win this fight. Not by being louder, but by being smarter. Strength for your argument, not your voice. Not by being more emotional, but by being more factual. Not by playing our game, but by refusing to play it at all. And there you have it. And let me leave you with this question. When you see a candidate running on socialism, do you think they're being honest about what socialism actually does to a country? Or do you think they're hoping you don't know the history? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the scripture. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. That's literally what's happening in that clip, in those clips, in this entire conversation. The leftist is sitting there trying to call socialism good, a system that has produced starvation, oppression, and mass exodus everywhere. It's been tried. Empty shelves, secret police, people fleeing on rafts and on feet, and at the same time, they're calling capitalism evil, a system that has lifted more people out of poverty than any other in human history. They're calling darkness light, and they're calling bitter sweet. They flip the moral compass upside down, and they expect you to go along with it. But scripture warns against the exact thing. There is a consequence for calling evil good. Whether it's in politics or in your personal life, when you start calling things what they are not, you lose your bearings. You cannot navigate when your compass is broken. And that's why we have to be honest about what works and what doesn't, what produces life and what produces death, regardless of who's saying it or what label they put on it. Spread that peace, love, and positivity, family. Hope you guys got some value from this video. Let the love supersede the hate. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.